All right, this is what you're gonna do. You're gonna be making a sample. So I'm gonna give everybody a sheet that looks like this, okay? You should all have this. Basically, you'll put your name on the top because I don't want you to lose the sheet. You're gonna make a little sample. Here is a sample of the same thing that somebody made in the past. Basically, it's made of glass. 3 pieces are cut out. Copper foil is put on them and they're soldered together. This one's a really good one because the pieces are pretty much almost the exact size as the pieces that are on here, okay? And the solder's done really well. So you have to cut out 3 basic pieces that are gonna fit together like a puzzle. So it says right here, leave this one alone, okay? And down here it says cut this one out. So when you cut it out, just take a scissors and you're gonna start cutting out the pieces right on the line. Don't cut outside the line, cut right in the center of that little black line, okay? Now, I already did that ahead of time to save time, and I've got these 3 pieces already cut out of this other one. So here are my 3 pieces, piece number 1, piece number 2, and piece number 3. And this is exactly how you're gonna do your other stained glass later. You're gonna have the pieces, but your pieces will be in color, but they're gonna be numbered. You're gonna have one design that will stay intact and one design that you're gonna cut out, okay? So now, if you look here, I could cut these pieces out of, I could put them all on one piece of glass, maybe arrange them sort of like this, so you can see that I don't really need more glass than this right now, okay? So what I'm gonna do right now is just, when I give you we're gonna just use this clear glass because it's really easy to cut and it's really inexpensive. I can pretty much get it for free from the hardware store. And I'm gonna cut this out. Now, you can't see what I'm physically doing on here, but you can look over here and see that I'm standing. So when I cut this, I'm standing up so that I put pressure on the glass. Now, when I look at this, I don't think I did a very good job on this end. So I'm cutting that a little bit more. Now, some of these cutters are better than others. So if you grab a cutter and you're like, oh, this is just not working, then maybe exchange it and try a different one. So I've got this kind, and I've got these kind too that you can use. I also have this one. I've got one like this. It's a little bit, this I've never used, so I'm sure it's really good. Once again, you have to hold this really upright when you're cutting. Okay, now, when the glass is like this, it breaks really easy because it's so thin and it's just a straight line, okay? So once again, I'm just gonna take this and I'm gonna tap just underneath the crack. And all that does, that increases the crack, okay? I take it on the edge of my table and I broke it off, and here it is right here. I just broke it off and I got a little piece of glass. I know it's a little bit hard to see because it's clear, but here it is, okay? Now, I'm gonna be cutting these shapes out of here. So you're gonna need a Sharpie for this, and because a Sharpie will work on glass, and sometimes when your Sharpie's not working, just draw on paper a little bit, and then usually that gets it rolling. Okay, now, if I have glass that's really straight, like for example, this has a really straight side here and here, so it makes sense that it would be good to place this right in the corner, because these are 2 sides that I don't have to cut, okay? Now, what I'm gonna be doing, when you put your piece on there, I tape it down. Because if I don't tape it down, it's gonna move, and when I trace it, it's not gonna be very good, okay? So I'm just gonna take a little roll of tape. I'm having a little trouble getting this off right now, and it ripped in a shred. Okay, let me do that again. So here we go. Sorry, going kind of slow. So here we go, take that little roll of tape, roll that into a little circle there, and then stick that underneath. I got tape on my fingers. All right, there we go. Put that right underneath here, and set that down just like this, okay? Now, I'm gonna be cutting this one out in a couple sections. So first, I'll probably just cut it straight across right here, like that, okay? Then I'll cut this curve, like this, and the last piece I'll cut would be this little corner, like this. Now, this is the problem. When you first try drawing on this, what'll happen is you can draw right up to here with your Sharpie, okay? But the problem is, when you take this to the grinder later, there's water on the grinder, and the water will wash off that ink, okay? So this is what I'm gonna do, and this is a little method I came up with. I don't know if I came up with it, but this is what I do. I'm gonna put tape on my project that will do 2 things. It'll tell me where the edge of the project is. So this is how it works. You can use blue tape, you can use white tape, it really doesn't matter. And I'm going to take a piece of tape and I'm going to lift it and slide it underneath the edge of the glass like this. I mean the edge of my sample, and push that down, okay? I need another piece over here. I'm going to take this piece and put it down like this, right there, okay? Then I'm going to take an X-Acto knife. Now I've got one here someplace. Here it is. X-Acto knives I have in the drawers. And I'm going to take my X-Acto knife and I'm going to cut the tape so that when I take, you'll see, I'm going to cut the tape. So I'm just going to take an X-Acto knife and I'm cutting it right along the edge like this. Then I take my blade and I pull that tape up and take it off, just like that. Okay. And then right here, I'll cut it right there, right next to the paper. And I'll cut this little extra piece off right here. Then I'll take my blade and I'll pull that up, okay? And then I'll do one more cut, and that's gonna be along the curved edge of this one. It's really important that you do this, especially with curved pieces. It's gonna help in a couple ways. Okay, now sometimes if I'm cutting out a totally straight piece, let's say I was cutting out just a plain square, I might not have to do that. So instead I would just trace my square and then just take my cutter. So suppose I had a square and my square was like right down here. I would just trace around the square and then I would just cut straight and straight, because that's really easy to do, okay? Now, when I take this off now, you can see now I have the shape that I need to cut out, okay? So now I'm gonna cut that shape out. So I'm gonna take my glass cutter and I'm gonna put it right here on this, and I'm gonna cut straight across right here. It's super important that you cut as close to the edge of that tape as you can. Like this all the way across. I tap this. Oop, broke right off. So look at that. Right there, it's cut really nicely, okay? I'm gonna take this, move it over, and now I'm going to do, I could do either one. I could do the curve first and then the corner, or the corner first and then the curve. I think I'm gonna do the corner first. So I'm gonna go right here. I'm gonna go straight across, all the way across. Cut that right there. Boom. Look at that, broke off. And now I got one more piece to cut, okay? Now the curves are the hardest because it's hard to control your cutter. So I got the cutter upright. I use my free hand here as a guide. My free hand is gonna rest against this, and that way I can go just like this right next to that tape. Now the tape serves two purposes. One, the tape tells me where the edge of the glass, where I'm supposed to be cutting, and two, it kind of prevents me from cutting down into the shape because the tape kind of acts like a block to it, okay? Now, my glass is pretty close to that shape that I want. Look at this. It's really close to that shape. Now it's gonna require a little grinding here and a little grinding there and a little grinding there to get it down. And it's important that we get it down to fit, okay? Because this is like a puzzle piece. So there's one, okay? I got another one. Look at it, looks like this one already, okay? Then I'm gonna do this one. This is the more difficult one, okay? The more difficult one is because this one's got an interior curve. That makes it tougher. So once again, I'm gonna put this right here, I think. That would be a good spot for it. And I'm gonna put a little piece of tape underneath it so it doesn't move. Okay, lift it up, put the tape underneath it. Okay, you could do that. I'm gonna just do the one corner here. Watch how I do this. I'm gonna just take a shortcut. I'm gonna put this right underneath here. Right like that, okay? I'm gonna take my X-Acto knife. I'll zoom in. I won't zoom in on my video, but I'll zoom in for you guys right now. Okay, so right there, and I'm gonna cut right here like this, right along the edge of the tape. I mean the edge of my shape. Cut this little piece off here, and I should be able to remove this. There we go. Okay, now, this other side, if you have a straight side, I'll cut that off right there. Okay, now, I don't have tape down there, but you know what? I can pretty much take my marker, and for this part right here, I'm just gonna draw a line right here. Just make sure it turned out. There you go. There's your line. And what I could do is I could take just a little piece of tape like this, and I could tape that right there. Okay, now I'm going to cut that curve out of there. But what I'm going to do first is I'm going to do the straight line. So straight line, once again, I take this, okay, and I put it right here. All the way across, right there, tap it. Look at that, came right off. Now last is the curve. Curves are tough, okay? So this is what I'm gonna do. I'm going to go like this. I'm gonna make sort of not as dramatic as a curve like this. Then I'm going to make a second curve just inside here. Just like that. Now this isn't easy. So I'm going to tap this. That broke off. Now, this part right here is a little bit tricky to get that part off. So this is where you're going to use your glass breaker. This is a glass breaker. It's a little tool that I can use to grab the glass. So once again, I'm going to tap this. That increases the crack, okay? Then I'm going to grab this and just sort of grab it, and look at that, came off in one piece. Can you believe that? Pretty good. So now here's my second piece that's done. And you can see that's pretty close to this shape. It's going to need this is going to need quite a bit of maybe not. When I lay this on here, I can see there's a little glass here and a little glass here that I'm going to grind down. The two bottom sides are probably pretty good. Okay, so I got my two shapes done. Here's two of them. Okay, and then I got my last one, and then this one for sure should be the easiest because it's just a straight shot. So if you're doing an easy one like this one, oh, look at that right there. It's going to fit right there. Or this is pretty straight. I could put it along here too. So I'm going to use that edge right there. Okay, this time I'm just going to take my marker and draw a line right here. I don't know if it came out. No, it didn't. So marker right there. And then right here. Now, since those are straight lines, probably don't need to put the tape underneath it. I'll just take straight tape and I'll do this. I'll put a straight piece right here. Okay. And then I'll take my X-Acto knife and just cut this end off right there. Boom. And then I'll put a straight piece on the other side. And like I said, the tape serves two purposes. The tape will prevent you from cutting into areas you don't need to cut. And the tape will also act as, when you're grinding this, the tape will tell you where the edge of the glass is, okay? And once again, I'll just try this one once. This is the other one. I'm just gonna hold this straight up right now. Actually, I'm not used to using that one. I'm gonna go back to this one. So I'm gonna go right here. Okay, tap it. And once again, and it's really, 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 I'll say really one more time, really important that you go right on that line or just a hair outside of it, okay? But don't cut real far away. Like, you don't want to have all kinds of extra glass right here, because then you got to grind it down. And the grinder doesn't work real fast, okay? It's kind of like if you needed to cut an inch off this table, you could cut an inch off with a saw, or you could cut an inch off with a sander. What would you rather use? A saw. It's going to be way better, and it'll take way less time. So if I can cut as much off with the glass cutter to begin with, that leaves me very little to grind, and it makes my job a lot easier, okay? Now, if you have trouble with this, and I expect you will because this is the first time you cut, I made it look easy because I've done this many times, okay? But if this was my very first time, there's a chance that maybe I screw up a piece. I'll just give you another piece and cut out another one, okay? Don't have a bad job and then try to grind it all down, okay? Now, that's it for now. You're gonna make these 3 pieces. Now later, on your sheet, what we'll be doing is, we're gonna be making sure that these pieces, I'll put it right here, that the pieces all fit together properly on my sheet. I'll just cut this off. So I have a piece here, and then my third piece is gonna fit right down here. Now, once those all fit perfectly and I grind them down and they fit really well, then I'm going to be grinding those so that they fit just fantastic. And then I'll show you the next step, which is putting copper foil on the edges and then soldering those together. That's basically, that's it. That's how stained glass is made. You cut out the pieces, you grind them down so they fit, you make sure they all fit, we put copper foil on them, we solder them together, and that's it. But once again, you gotta be able to cut them, and you gotta be able to do it right. You can't, if you cut them wrong, it won't work. It's like if you had a puzzle and one of the pieces was too big, it won't fit in your puzzle and your puzzle won't work, okay? So this is gonna be due next Wednesday. So everybody's starting on it today, okay? And also, I'm gonna give you an envelope. The envelope is a little manila envelope that you're gonna keep this sheet of paper in, and you're gonna keep your glass samples in. It'll have your name on it, and then you'll put it in your slot. So next time, I'm assuming people aren't gonna get completely done today. You're gonna pull out those pieces and grind them if you need them to grind it, okay? And I'll show you how to use a grinder in just a little bit.